And thank you very much, Ken Workington, and we welcome everybody inside the friendly confines of the SNY Sam McKee Memorial Broadcast set for another Friday night in the Sulky with Nancy Johansson. Nancy, we know you're very, very busy this time of year, a big couple of days ahead of you, so I just want to say thank you for taking a little time to join us. We're going to talk a bunch of things here. We're going to talk family, we're going to talk horses, etc., etc. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, that's what we'd like to hear. Now listen, before we get to the horses, and we know we're going to talk about a bunch of them as well, I want to talk about you and how you find balance between running a demanding business and your family. How do you do it?
It takes a lot of juggling for sure. I have two small children. Ella's 14 and Marcus Jr., who's 11. So obviously, they have priorities and things that need to be done with them, and then to have a stable of 45 horses. So it's a lot of juggling, but it takes a village to raise children. So luckily I have a good village behind me. Obviously Marcus helps a lot with the children, and my mom Christina helps a lot with the children, and somebody in my family is always willing to help out, and we kind of just get it done.
So how do you work a little fun into their average day after you get done working?
Sometimes it's hard because obviously we have to get up really early to work, and we race late at nights, and sometimes when I come home in the afternoon, all I want to do is take a nap, but that's not always a realistic thing to happen. So we just try to switch it up. We always try to kind of go with quality time is more important than quantity time. Especially in the off season, we eat dinner together every night as a family and just kind of do stuff like that because there's a lot of travel and obviously racing at night, so you just do the best you can.
All right, speaking of the business, you and your husband Marcus, you run a tremendous operation together. You do great teamwork as well. So how important is he to have around?
Marcus is really a good horseman. Obviously he's a good driver, and he's got a lot of experience in horse racing, so obviously he's a good person to have on my team. We work really well together, and we're able to kind of conquer and divide with the kids and with the horses, so it's definitely a good asset to have.
Okay, now I want to make this very clear for everybody out there that you were born into the business here, but you were working your tail off from when you were very young. You were always around the barn, weren't you?
Yeah, I was with my dad all the time when I was little. I don't know how many Saturday mornings I sat in the cafeteria on baby race mornings just watching the horses, and then I was finally old enough to help out and paddock, and I actually trained and jogged at a really young age. I think I was 9 years old, and we had this big pacing gelding named Lansford Hanover that I trained in 2 minutes, and I was 9 years old. So I was always around the horses.
Was he one of your favorites? I mean, who was the best horse that you actually took care of as caretaker?
Tom Ridge has a really close place to my heart because he obviously was first trotter under 51, and he broke the world record in 50 and 2. I was pregnant with Ella when I was taking care of him, so it was kind of my life was kind of going in different directions. He was a little quirky and difficult to take care of. Muscle Massive, obviously Hamiltonian winner, I loved him. And then there's the ones that aren't always so great that you like too, that nobody knows or remembers. But I always like the horses. I really genuinely like horses. It's animals. So
yes, we all do that. That's why we are part of this game. Now, you've been on your own since 2014. You campaigned a Horse of the Year then, but last year when your dad retired, you got a whole new set of high-profile horses and owners here. So tell me how you're handling that pressure.
I put a lot of pressure on myself to begin with, so it's not really any added pressure. I try to do the best I can in every situation. I try to have every horse as close to 100% perfect every time they step on the track, and when they're not, I beat myself up for it. It's frustrating. As far as the owners go, I trained for a lot of those owners that my dad had beforehand, so I have relationships with all of them already, and so like that. But I will admit, first, when all the 2-year-old or the 3-year-olds came back into training, I'm making the training schedule, and you're writing "Don't Let Them" and Shago and the ice touches on your training schedule. It's a little surreal, but it's a great feeling.
If you could give yourself a midterm grade, what would you give yourself right now? How are we doing so far this year?
I think we're doing pretty okay. There are obviously some things I would have liked to have gone better. Obviously, Meadowlands pace, I would have liked to have gone a little bit differently, but we've had a little bit of sickness in the barn, which has kind of been a struggle. It's tough this time of year with the weather. It's very hot and it gets very cold, and the horses suffer from allergies and all kinds of stuff. So I think we're doing pretty good. I don't like midterm grades. I like
Okay.
final grades. So
I'll
we'll go with the
ask you.
final
I'll
grade
ask you again.
Ask me in November.
I'll ask you at the Dan Patch Awards next year when you're probably getting a trophy or two. Now, listen. At this time of year, it's the one job of a harness horse trainer at the top level to get horses to peak right now. Explain to everybody just how hard that is, because sometimes the horses don't always go along with the plan.
Yeah, it's hard to get them to peak. Obviously, you're starting, especially with the 3-year-olds and even the 2-year-olds, you're starting at kind of ground zero when the season starts, and then you kind of have to get them at the top pinnacle point for certain races. So, you're trying to keep them brave, keep them physically sound, keep them physically healthy. Those are, frustrating things because they're not always things that I can control. You look in the lines, don't let him has a scratch sick, and it's just you move 2 inches forward and you move 1 inch back. So you're always, constantly fighting natural elements, I guess, that you can't manipulate. But in the end, they're horses, so you just kind of roll with the punches.
Okay, and that's your job, to roll with the punches and make them perform at their peak. Now let's talk horses here, because we've got several to talk about. Let's start with Captain Crunch, the comeback in that North America Cup. That had to be very satisfying.
I was surprised everybody jumped off his bandwagon so quickly, because I knew going into the race that he was the best horse. I would have, mortgaged my house and put it all on Win, but some people should have asked me what I thought. But, he's a very, very good horse. He actually came up a little bit sick after the Meadowlands pace, so we opted not to go to the Adios to give him some time to recuperate from that. But he trained back this morning, a quick mile, and he'll be ready for Hambo Dave in the cane pace.
All right, that's good to know. We'll see him in action next Saturday, hopefully. Now, one that's caught my eye is one of your babies, JK First Lady, is the first foal from your Horse of the Year. How special is that, and how good is she?
She's super nice filly. She's been nice since the first moment she stepped in my barn. She's done everything right. She's got this great determination about her, and she knows that she's supposed to be first, which is nice. I think her mom kind of passed that along to her. She's a sound filly. She can take a lot of air and do a lot of work. She's just super to be around. All
right, we've got some questions about some of the others. Let's start with Don't Let Him here. This was his lifetime best about a month ago. What has happened since?
He's don't let him. And we always joke that we just can't let him do the things that he does sometimes. But, he has this little bit of habit where he likes to get his head down really low, which is efficient. It's efficient for trotters to go with their head low, but sometimes it's a little bit too low. So we actually made some equipment changes and some shoeing changes. And he trained a very fast last half at the farm last week, and he should be ready to roll, although he drew the 10-hole tomorrow night, which isn't ideal. So that's another thing that you kind of just have to deal with and move forward. But right now, I think he's the best he's been all year.
The Bad Post Blues, we're all familiar with that.
Yeah.
And Manchego, we can't stop without talking about Manchego. She's taken a little while to come around so far this year. What finally got her to turn the corner?
She was a little tired at the end of last year. She obviously had a very tough schedule in the beginning of her 3-year-old season. She tackled the boys a few times. She came back physically really good. We just try to race her a little bit with open bridle, kind of keep her quiet and so forth. But she is like day and night different horse when you put the blinkers on her. It's such a little difference, but it's such a huge difference on the track. The first time she wore the blinkers was when Dexter qualified her in 51 here, and she's just a different horse with them. So.
Okay, I've got one more for you. You're racing tonight. Tall, dark stranger here. You gave me some great comments for the program here. He's got that immaculate pedigree. What should we expect from him?
He is super, super nice, Cole. We saw him at the sale, and we just loved him, and we just hoped, we would have enough to get him bought. And, luckily I had some great owners that stepped up to the plate and, were very eager to be a part of him. And he's done everything right. He's good gated, good heart rate, good lung capacity, well-mannered. He gets along well with Yannick. So I think that, I think they've got a really good shot today, and I think they have a really good season ahead.
Okay, and lastly, before we let you go back to work, one thing that I absolutely have to know here, have you made your daughter, Ella, your full-time bloodstock consultant? I mean, after all, she did pick out Captain Crunch, right?
Yeah, Ella spotted Captain Crunch. She was the first one to lay eyes on him. But Ella's very academic and studious, so if anybody wants to hire her as their bloodstock agent, that would be great. But I think she's going to focus on her education as for now.
All right, good stuff, Nancy. Thanks so much for talking fun, talking family, talking horses as well. Good luck tonight, the rest of the weekend, and maybe even more importantly, good luck next weekend. Thanks for spending a little time with us.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, Nancy Johansson in the Sulky this Friday night. Let's take a quick timeout. When we come back, hey, we've got a lot of work to do on our races tonight. Dave Little will sit in the chair, and we'll be ready to go right after this.